Obi-Wan Kenobi show is finally here after what it feels like a decade of waiting, if not more. So naturally, this miniseries has a lot riding on it to not only be good, but potentially the best TV that's ever been released on Disney+. And the question I'm sure many of us going into it have asked, does it not only meet these grand expectations, but possibly even exceed them? Luckily for the premiere, we were given not one, but 2 episodes. Which all I can say about this is that it really did work in favor for the show. The first episode is naturally an opener, giving us a glimpse of what Obi-Wan, now going by his alias Ben, has been up to on Tatooine in the last 10 years after Order 66. We're shown Ben's day-to-day monotonous life, working at a sand whaling station during the day, afterwards commuting to Anchorhead, where he then travels to his cave home on his trusty EOB. Rinse and repeat. Not exactly the glamorous life, but hey, better alive than dead like the 90% of the rest of the Jedi. In addition to this, we also get a good look at Leia's life on Alderaan, which no doubt was one of my favorite parts of Episode 1. As getting to see a lot of Alderaan, which of course we've rarely seen in canon, much less in live action, was no doubt a treat and a welcomed change from the less, interesting Tatooine that we've seen countless times. Originally, I will say I wasn't a big fan of Leia's actress. I thought she did a decent job, but I don't know. She was okay, but I kind of expected a little bit more. Unfortunately, Leia does end up getting captured by some mercenaries later in the episode, which, along with a very slow and cringy chase scene, and yeah, that chase scene was really bad. 5 grown adults couldn't capture a little girl in the forest? Okay. But what really made me question is how some mercs were even able to get through the Royal Palace security and hang out in essentially its backyard waiting for her all that time. Yeah, really weird. Something not quite right there. Anyway, back on Tatooine, we get a glimpse of Luke's life with the Lars family, and that's mainly from Ben stalking Luke from afar. But on the flip side, we do get introduced to Owen Lars, as well his relationship with Ben, which is, rocky to say the least. Granted, I wasn't expecting him to be, buddy-buddy with him, but it's a lot more hostile than I would have imagined it to be. Which is interesting, don't get me wrong. Personally, for me, next to Ben, Owen was by far my favorite in Episode 1. His acting was real well done here, and hey, for a moisture farmer, Owen's kind of a badass, staring death in the face and not even breaking a sweat. Damn. Lastly, we get introduced to the Inquisitors, which, in my opinion, were the weakest part of the episode. Not only do the Grand Inquisitor and Fifth Brother not look or sound like anything as they do in Rebels, where they actually looked and sounded intimidating, instead here they're almost like a parody version of that. Especially more so the Fifth Brother, who looks downright awful and sounds like a prepubescent teenager just trying to do a deep voice and failing at it. It's just awful. Not to mention he's missing his fully gray eyes, you can still see his dark pupils in the show. And of course, he's still too tiny for the role, which is rather annoying. What can I say? It's just the worst casting choice on the show in general. I like the actor in other movies, but here he just doesn't fit the character whatsoever. He's so unsuited for this role that Lucasfilm even had him wear elevator shoes to try and compensate for the lack of size. And still with those, he's just barely taller than Reva. No, really, I'm not kidding. He's actually wearing elevator boots and it looks tacky as heck. And before you ask, no, the original Fifth Brother just wore normal boots. Because, well, he was supposed to be a big, tall, imposing figure who's even taller than Darth Vader. And, yeah, this fifth brother, even with the elevator boots, he's nowhere near Vader's height. So defend him all you want, but yeah, he's just so bad for the role. Okay, moving on. The Grand Inquisitor, on the other hand, is at least improved over what we initially saw in the teaser trailer. He's now got his yellow eyes via CGI and actually does have sharp teeth. But alas, he still looks more so like a cosplayer than a actual Powin. Lacking the proper head shape, no glowing yellow eyes like in Rebels, no long sharp teeth, a bad makeup job with the red strikes under his eyes being quite faded when they really shouldn't, and he's missing the ribbed texture over his face like the Powins in canon have. It's only like half of the face. Well, actually not even the face, but the head. So yeah, his face is just, he looks more like Uncle Fester still. And no, that's not a good thing. Oh, and I gotta mention, his voice sounds downright goofy compared to Jason Isaacs' performance in Rebels. But I suppose that would happen, as the actor here, Rupert Friend, even admitted that he never watched Rebels before on purpose, all as to try and craft his own version of the character. Which, sure, I get if that was an adaptation of the character in another universe or whatever like that, but this is all in the same canon timeline universe. It's supposed to be the same character. You're not supposed to act differently with the character, so yeah, I don't really get that. So naturally, he's got no idea how the original Grand Inquisitor sounds and acts like. Again, all in all, he looks and acts more like Uncle Fester than a Powin Inquisitor, but well, we'll just have to roll with it. Next we have Reva, who's just a basic-looking human female wearing Inquisitor gear. But unlike the rest of the Inquisitors, she's got a major obsession over Obi-Wan Kenobi, even going off course from the initial missions, all in order to try and find him. Acting-wise, I thought she was okay in some parts, while in others, she way overacted and pulled me right out of the show. Is she terrible? No. Is she great? Not quite either. But yeah, like I said, the Inquisitor scenes in general here are pretty lame as a whole. And what mainly comes to mind is when they try to find a Jedi named Nari in a bar, and how when they do find him, he escapes all three of the Inquisitors, especially with him not using his lightsaber and having an injured arm, and he still somehow manages to slowly escape from them. And again, keep in mind, he's a Padawan, doesn't use his lightsaber, and manages to escape three Inquisitors in a small confined space. Yeah, that whole scene is rather comical and I really wasn't able to take it seriously. The generic Jedi character Nari here doesn't exactly help the episode either, and I'm not sure if it's just due to the weak script or maybe the actor's not so great acting, but he really did feel more like a character from an SNL skit than, say, a true gritty Star Wars live-action series. Like, his interaction with Ben was especially terrible, randomly running up to him in the middle of the desert in the middle of the night. Like, how do you even find him there in the first place? Seriously? Not to mention the whole scene just lacked substance and felt rather pointless. We later do see that Nari ends up getting killed by the Inquisitors, at least I think he does, which in itself makes no sense as they had left the planet by that point. So I'm not sure how he got killed, and even then, rather than him being hung up by his neck like the teasers kinda teased that was the case or anything like that, he's just tied up at the torso to some arch. I think they were trying to go for something emotional and dark in this scene, but honestly it just came across as the exact opposite of that. Especially with there being no visible damage or torture done to him. I mean, the guy simply looks like he's sleeping in a terrible broken makeshift hammock, so yeah. I was definitely confused on my first viewing on what exactly is going on here or how it happened, so like I said, it's not great. Later on, Ben is visited in his cave by Bail Organa, who pleads him to go off-planet to look for Leia. Which is where the real fun actually starts, with episode 2 that takes place entirely on a different planet, being Dayu. In addition to this, we're also done with the introductions, and the main mission here is to save Leia and get her back home safely, which results in this episode feeling far more different than the first one in tone and pacing. Here, we really only focus on Ben's search for Leia, him trying to collect clues on where she's captured, the different strange characters he meets while on his time on the planet, and then afterwards, the whole aftermath of him trying to get off Dayu safely with Leia, plus some other stuff that happens between them. As things mainly get interesting once Leia is in Ben's care and then grows suspicious of him, which then sees her run off away from him, and there's this whole chase scene. This added some needed tension, as everything to this point was relatively easy for Ben in both finding and then later breaking her out. Since, well, the goons who captured her were, well, a joke, even for a rusty, out-of-shape Ben. Although we do get confirmation here that they did all of this on the orders of Reva, who wanted to use Anakin's secret daughter on Alderaan to bait Kenobi out from hiding. And this part is what made me do a double take during the episode, because, remind me again how a low-level Inquisitor like Reva knew of Vader's true identity, being Anakin Skywalker, and even more so that he had a daughter living on Alderaan in secret. Key information that not even Vader himself knew about. So how Reva, out of all the people in the universe, knew about this is so darn strange and really makes no sense whatsoever in the context of where we are in the timeline. It almost feels like she's some kind of fan who found herself somehow sucked into the world of Star Wars and knows things that majority of the characters in universe don't know about and won't until much, much later. So I really hope a good explanation is given here for Reva's excellent Star Wars trivia skills. Anyway, aside from another cringy Leia chase scene through the streets of Dayu, and well, a pretty lame shootout on the rooftops with Ben versus two bounty hunters, this episode did have better pacing, dialogue, and action. It wasn't by any means great like the Mandalorian level, but much more improved over episode 1. It also allowed me to better appreciate young Leia here a lot more than in episode 1, as I thought her actress here was excellent and worked real well with Ben. Which is saying a lot, as child actors are usually a hit or miss. Not to mention, we also get an old clone trooper war veteran on the streets, which was awesome to see here. It was a great touch. Like many of you, I'm sure I just couldn't help but smile and get all giddy at seeing Tem in this series portraying a retired old clone trooper. Not to mention, we get actual practical and not CGI clone trooper armor, so that was just, fantastic too. Now, finally, we did get Reva backstabbing Uncle Fester right at the end. Or, well, should I say front-stabbing him for the episode cliffhanger, which I gotta say was really unexpected. Either this guy is now dead and the real Grand Inquisitor that we know from Rebels comes in to take over for this cosplayer, or we go through the route where he gets a robotic stomach to survive like Fennec Shan did. Either way, it's clear that the show wants to get rid of him ASAP in order to put Reva in the spotlight as the main baddie next to, later of course, Vader. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. I need to see more episodes. Maybe this is the right direction, I don't know. So I don't really want to comment too much about that. We'll just have to see. But yeah, overall, as you can tell from my review, I'm far from impressed with the Kenobi premiere. Granted, I had incredibly high expectations for it. And how could you blame me with how well The Mandalorian came out and how long this project has been in development? So it's kinda to be expected, you know? But at the same time, for me personally, the quality of this series so far at least has been below par, even below the Book of Boba Fett even. The weak acting and writing, plus not so great directing, really doesn't do the series any favors, making it ultimately feel like one big fan film. And myself being not the biggest fan of Star Wars fan films in general, then I guess that's probably why I feel the way that I do about this series. And believe me, it feels so weird to be saying this. I had to take several days to process and watch over the episodes to really make sure I felt the way that I do about it. As numerous times when watching these 2 episodes, I just kept telling myself, I can't believe this is an official Lucasfilm series. It's just so bad, and I can't help but laugh at times. Now, of course, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either, and I really wanted to love it. Again, it feels super weird saying this. I don't know how many times I have to repeat that, but yeah, I did not expect to feel this way about Kenobi as I am right now. Especially with Deborah Chow directing every episode, I honestly expected better, but I suppose Lucasfilm choosing some complete nobody to write the series was a pretty risky decision that, in my opinion, didn't work out for them. Now, why would they go that route with the most anticipated show they ever probably will produce? I have no idea. It unfortunately is what it is. At least so far in these 2 episodes that I've seen, it's not been great at all, no. But who knows, the series can easily start getting real good by episode 3 for all I know, and from there go even better. But for now, I'm only rating the first 2, which I wasn't exactly, crazy about. I will say that I'm glad that they gave us 2 episodes right from the get-go, because believe me, my opinion on the show would only be worse if we had to wait a whole week for episode 2. Episode 1 for me was bland, stale, and downright cringy at times, aside from some great performances by Ben and Owen. As well the really good Order 66 stinger that we get with the young Reva. But other than that, I absolutely did not care for this episode at all. Which, hey, I know I'm probably in the minority for saying this, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say, oh, it was the best Star Wars TV I've ever seen in my whole life. It was 10 out of 10 perfect spotless stuff. No. I'm not here for that. If that's what you're looking, then I'm sure you can find so many other videos talking nothing but amazing, great stuff about this episode. But here, no, I'd rather be honest. Thankfully, episode 2 was a lot better and a more engaging watch, but even then, I don't think it's anywhere near the quality of a Mandalorian episode, for example, which no doubt is basically the gold standard for Star Wars live-action TV now. Anything that gets made, it's gonna have to be compared to The Mandalorian, let's be real. But for now, I can only sit back and hope things do get better from here on out. Because we all know such an anticipated series like Kenobi definitely deserves nothing but the best. And well, that was my take on the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let me know what you all thought about the episodes in the comments below, and if you haven't already, remember to like this video, or heck, dislike it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.